Hello, my dear students. My name is Dr. Temiloluwa Ajibade, and today I welcome you to the section on principles and applications of macroeconomics. In today's section, we'll be considering introduction to macroeconomics. That's the basis of macroeconomics. All right. Okay. In today's section, we'll be considering economic science and macroeconomics, looking at the definitions. We're considering supply and demand. We'll be considering the data of macroeconomics and also considering some macroeconomic variables. What is economics? It is important for us to know what economics is. There are many definitions on the concept of economics by different economists. But generally, what we will say is that economics is action in an economic context. Every human behaves in a certain way. And so economics looks at human behavior within an economic context. And so we have three central coordination problems that any economy must solve. In every economy, we economists look at what to produce, how much to produce, how to produce these things, and for whom it will be produced for. And so this is important. The three problems any economy must solve is what the economy would produce and how much that's the quantity of the production, how this production is going to take place, and for whom to produce these things, that is for whom the productions are meant for. All right, going forward, we look at the difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics. So when we talk about microeconomics, we are talking about the study of how individuals make economic decisions within a society. How do we make economic decisions as an individual? This is what microeconomics is about. It looks at how will changes in the income or the prices affects consumer demand. It looks at factors that influence costs. It looks at the market functions. While macroeconomics it considers how the entire economy works, considering inflation, unemployment rates, the economic growth and development, the social welfare of the citizens. All these things are studied under macroeconomics. All right, one other thing that we consider again is scarcity. Now, scarcity is something that happens in every economy. And why is this? This is because the wants of individuals are insatiable. It can never be satisfied as that is, our wants can never be satisfied as individuals. We keep wanting more. After we have this, we want the next thing, we want the next things. So this has created a degree of problem in the society. Scarcity actually means that the goods available are too few to satisfy every human desire. Our wants are infinite, while the resources are finite. That is, they are limited, while our wants are limitless. All right. So now this resulted to scarcity in an economy. Now, considering the law of demand, demand and supply drives the economy. And so when we talk about the law of demand, basically what the law of demand means is that the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. And then the lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded. So this is what the law of demand is all about. As price changes, people tend to change how much they are willing to buy. And so if the prices increase, then there is a tendency that the quantity a consumer or a customer will buy will decrease. For instance, if you go to the market and you have, say you have 10 pounds with you, and you've planned that with this 10 pounds, you are going to buy, say, three quantity of, say, what can we use now? Let's say you are getting a grocery and you want to buy three quantity of so let's say liquid soap. Liquid soap that's for you to wash in the kitchen, to wash the plates, to wash the dishes and the pots and lights. And then when you get to the supermarket and you met this particular liquid soap for £4, knowing fully well that you are going with a man that it's £3. With £3, you can get three of that. But now that the price has increased from £3 to £4, it means that the quantity you will be buying will reduce. And this is how the law of demand works, that price comes down, then there is a tendency that you want more. But if the price goes up, then the quantity you will be buying will reduce. And that is why you get more during sales. When you go to a mall or you go to any uh, store and you see that there is a slash in the price, there is or the products are out on sales, if at this period especially, when you have sales, the seasonal sales, and then you see when a clothes that, for instance, that costs say £20, you are getting it for £10. You would want to buy two of that. And if the prices increase from 20 to 30, you would probably not even buy the clothes at all. The law of demand. The higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. The lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded. And also, when we talk about the law of supply works in this way too. If quantity supply, the quantity supply increases as the price increases. And that is why we have the law that all things being equal, that other things being equal, it means that the higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied, the lower the price, the lower the quantity supplied. Suppliers would always want to sell more when there is an increase in price so that they can have more gain. And when prices drop, apparently, suppliers are always reluctant to sell. And so that is, in the case of supply, quantity supply increases as the price increase, and quantity supply reduces as the price reduces. All right. Going forward, we have what we know as market equilibrium. So market equilibrium is a concept in which the opposing dynamics forces cancel each other. Literally, we would say that we can say there is a conflict between the consumer and the supplier. And so their meeting point is the equilibrium. So that's quantity where a supplier is ready to buy and a supplier is ready to sell and a consumer is ready to buy is the equilibrium quantity. And the price where the consumer is comfortable buying a product and the supplier is comfortable selling the product is simply the equilibrium price. And so it's just say at the middle where supply and demand, where they interact, where they meet. This is the equilibrium point. So equilibrium quantity, as noted in the slide, you see, is the amount bought and sold at equilibrium price. Why the equilibrium price is the price towards which the invisible ants drive the market. Just like I explained, the comfortable price for the seller and the buyer. So if there is an excess supply, that is a surplus, then quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded. Now we have excess demand, which is a shortage if quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. All right. Just like we have in the chart, you can see here that now we have the equilibrium point, which is the P star. The PO is the excess demand. That's the P1, that's the excess supply. Now we have the price, which is P, we have the quantity, which is Q, and then we have the graph of supply and the graph of demand. So the excess supply causes downward pressure on price, while the excess demand causes upward pressure on price. Okay, going forward, what is division of labor? This is another concept that we need to talk about. The division of labor can be defined as a purposeful specialization in production according to efficiency, which applies to land and capital goods as well as labor. Now, these things mentioned are the factors of production: land, labor, capital. And so the division of labor stems from the diversity and the inequality of human being and of nature. As individuals, we are not the same. We have our inequality. We have inequalities. We have diversities as human beings. And so what I can do, you might not be able to do. What you can do, I might not be able to do. And so I am more comfortable doing one thing while I'm inadequate in a particular thing. And so division of labor comes from the fact that we have a specialized thing which we are able to achieve efficiency and effectiveness. And so we stick to this particular thing purposefully. And so now specialization comes from there. So specialization does not automatically guarantee increased productivity. However, it must be complemented by exchange. Well, coming to the country phase, which has to do with free trade, and accompanied by market signals. Division of labor is the specialization of a work process into number of tasks, with which tasks performed by a separate person or group of persons. Division of labor is saying that for us to achieve efficiency as a group, we divide the work among ourselves. Now, and this division is according to what we can do best. So if in a group of 3, they are planning to do a particular task, now that a person is given a task that is comfortable and convenient doing, so that there won't be any form of setback or inefficiency. And this is the division of labor. That is, work separated to different number of people so as to achieve a particular task. Okay. Now, in an economy, we have the role of government. Apparently, the government plays two major roles why they have responsibility. They act as actors who collect money in terms of taxes and spend that money on projects such as defense and education. The government also acts as referee who set rules that determine the relations between businesses and household. Governments have their responsibility, and one of the responsibility is to ensure a stable set of institutions and rules in a society. They also promote effective and workable competition within the economy among businesses. They correct for externalities while they also ensure economic stability and growth. They provide public goods. When we talk of public goods, we have public goods such as health, care, security, public goods. And then they also adjust for undesirable market results. Every government of every nation or country have this responsibility to achieve. Going forward, just like we picked from the responsibility of government, that is establishing an effective economic institution. And now, what are these economic institutions? They are laws, they are common practices, they are organizations in a society that affect the economy. Usually, these economic institutions are established by the government. That is, the governments and these economic institutions, they differ significantly among nations. Every nation has its own peculiarity, and so economic institutions are established based on the peculiarities of each country. And so social pressures also offset economic pressures, and it prevents unemployed individuals from accepting work at lower rates than currently employed workers receive. Now, the economic institutions that are put in place to ensure that policies and rules work in an economy. It is important that governments put in place workable institutions to drive the growth of the economy. Now, going forward, we talk about aggregate demand and supply. What is aggregate demand? What is aggregate supply? Remember, we've spoken about law of demand and law of supply. So aggregate demand actually is the total quantity of all goods and services consumed in an economy. Total goods and services consumed in an economy at all possible price level at a particular period of time. So aggregate demand is talking of the total demand, that is the total quantity of goods and services in an economy, consumed in an economy, given all possible prices and at a particular period of time. Considering supply also, that's aggregate supply, that describes the total quantity of goods and services produced in an economy at all possible price levels at a particular period of time. So the difference between these two is one, the total quantity of goods produced, which that is aggregate supply, while aggregate demand is the total quantity of goods and services consumed in an economy. Going forward, remember we spoke about the equilibrium earlier. And so in this case, we have the equilibrium output to mean the level of output to which the economy gravitates in the short run because of the cycles of declining and increasing in production. Production in an economy can either increase or decrease. It's a cycle. So there is always a cycle of decline and there is always a cycle of expansion. Economy expands and it declines. And so equilibrium output now describes the level of output towards which the economy gravitates in the short run because of these cycles of declining and increasing or expansion in the production in a given economy. Now, talking about potential output is the highest amount of output an economy can reach using its existing production process and resources. The height you can get when we talk about potential, it means that something that has the ability to move forward to grow. So the maximum level, that's we all have our potentials, we all have what we know we can we can achieve, that is what we know we can attain. And so attainable output, this potential output is the highest, the maximum output an economy can reach using the existing production processes and resources. Now, there is growth. Growth is an increase in the potential output, while productivity is output per unit of input. Okay. Now, in an economy, we have policies that drive the economy. And economic policies, these are actions or inactions of the government to influence economic actions. What the government does or what they do not do is important. And so policies are the actions of the government to influence economic actions. They are policies, that's actions or inactions, what they do to influence the economic activities or actions in a country. And we have the objective policy, which analysis. This keeps value judgment separate from the analysis, while subjective policy analysis reflects the analyst's view of how things should be. One is saying how things should be, one is giving how it is. All right. So when we now come to the UK, can you think of some economic policies? We have some economic policies. Yeah, basically, in every economy, there are policies. You have the monetary policy, that's with the two common ones, the monetary policy and fiscal policy. The fiscal policy, which we would dwell more on these policies as we go on in the module, but it's this fiscal policies are controlled by the government, while monetary policy, they are usually controlled by the central banks of um and central bank of any country. All right. The next thing we'll be discussing is the economic system. Briefly, we're just highlighting economic systems. We have the planned economy, which talks about our economies that are controlled by the government. The production level, every activity, production level, it's controlled by the economy. Everything that is done in the economy is controlled by the government. Sorry. And so we have the free market economy. This is left in the hands of the market, that's the demand and supply, to take control of how the economy runs. So the free market economy, the government does not control. People are free to sell and buy, to produce what they want as much as long as there is market for it. And the mixed economy, this has to do with the mixture of planned economy and free economy. In the mixed economy, yes, even though the market's the force is in place, but then it works within the borders of government's rules and regulations. Right. So basically, these are the examples of these are the types of economic system. Remember, planned economy is totally everything about the economy is totally controlled by the government. Free economy, they are giving the economy is given a free hand to operate without the involvement of government. That's just left to the forces of demand and supply. Why the mixed economy? Yes, there is the market force, but it operates within the restrictions, that's rules and regulation of the government. All right. So going forward, talking about macroeconomic variables, we are going to pick each of these variables as we go on in the module. We have gross domestic product, we have unemployment rate, we have inflation rate, we have balance of payments, we have interest rates, fiscal policies. Remember, I was talking about some policies earlier, and monetary policy. These are examples of macroeconomic variables, but we'll be talking extensively on them as we go on in the module. We have the class activity for you. When you check your module, week 1 module, you would see on the module, you would see the class activity. So you can go through. This activity is talking about the types of economic system. So if we take, for instance, when we check this, guess the economic system. It says state planners in a particular country A met to decide what the country should focus on producing. After much deliberation, they decided it would be in the country's best interest to use their limited resources to produce automobiles instead of other consumer goods, such as electronics or textile. The state planners passed their economic decision down to factories and allocated to them raw materials, workers, and other resources needed to produce automobile. Factories were then told how much they should produce with these resources and who the final product should be shipped to. Guess this type of economy. In guessing the economy system, this is the first one. You look at, remember we spoke about 3 types of economic system. The plan, the free markets, and then the mixed. So looking at this, which type of economy does the government decide what should be produced, for whom it will be produced, and how much to be produced? The government decides everything. Which economy is that? Guess the economy. The second one is guess the economy system. In country B, business owners decide what to produce, how much to produce, and who to produce for. So the CEO of Taelia Audio, one of the leading audio equipment producers in the country, recently decided to increase production level of the company's newest MP3 player model, and at the same time decrease the production levels of their most popular CD player. The reason for the emphasis on MP3 players is consumers. Demand for CD players have decreased dramatically as MP3 technology has taken over the market. Simply put, there is more profit to be made in MP3 markets. Now, which type of economy is this? Where the demand and supply is, and the forces of demand and supply is left to operate freely. Guess the economic system. The third one, in country D, business owners make most economic decisions as long as they abide by the fair trade policies that they can decide, they can decide what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce without government intervention. These decisions are made by business owners based on what happens in the market. For example, a computer manufacturer recently developed a new video gaming system but decided to wait until closer to the holidays to release the system to the public because it believes anticipation among consumers would allow the company to charge a higher price for the system. Which kind of economy is this? Even though the force of demand and the forces of demand and supply are left to play freely, but then it's within the restrictions or regulations of the government. Which type of economy is this? So given the three types of economy, guess the three types of economy given in this class activity. All right. Also in your module, you'd see the week 1 post-class activity. You could read through and discuss and answer the questions that follow. All right. Today's section, we've been able to define economies and differentiate between between microeconomies and macroeconomies. We spoke about supply and demand, the laws of supply, the law of supply, the law of demand, aggregate supply and aggregate demand. We discussed about the roles of governments in the economy and their responsibilities, the types of economic system, and we described or we mentioned some macroeconomic variables that you would continue to come across with in terms relating to macroeconomics. Thank you very much for attending to this section. Look forward to seeing you in the next section. Bye-bye.